I put my big jawbreakers aside here. And I don't have a lot today, but it's going to take me about, they say 4 days. I can do this jawbreaker in 2, I know it. Anyway, I don't know how much truth there is to what I'm about to say. So take it with a grain of salt, because if it was really true, it'd be all over the news. But this does come from Israel. Closer. And apparently, according to I think it's the Jerusalem Post, don't quote me on it, one of the Israeli papers, they said that the Russians have fired twice at Israeli airplanes. Which, there's 2 reasons why I'm not sure if this is propaganda, why I think there's more propaganda than true. Number one, would the Russians miss? I don't think so. The Israelis are good, but they're not that good. Again, I know there's some people that they're complete absolutists. No, these guys are the best in the world. Maybe the best in the world, but not invincible. Israeli airplanes get shot down by much lesser nations than Russia, equipment-wise, from time to time. So, if the Russians were shooting at the Israelis, we'd have 2 charbroiled Israeli airplanes on the ground. There's no doubt about that. Now, did they fire warning shots? That could be something different. And did they, again, if Russia was shooting at Israeli airplanes or any airplanes, they're going down. I'm not saying the Israelis can't fight back, but what I'm saying is, with an S-300 missile system there, with S-230s flying around the skies, there's been a couple of incidents where the Russians have chased Israeli airplanes out of Syrian airspace. And there's a lot going on right now. Apparently the world's on red alert. I don't know about on the DEFCON system, but it looks like this. So the Israelis are saying it in their newspaper for propaganda. At a time when Israel is trying to get more funding from the United States. At a time when Obama was trying to get funding for a potential war with Russia. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody is going to be telling the truth on this. At a time when 250 U.S. troops are now in Syria to fight, they're there to fight Assad's forces. There's no doubt about that. They're there to fight Assad's forces. Directly or indirectly, they're there. I'm pretty sure the U.S. servicemen will figure it out when they're there. But they're supposed to be supporting role and stuff like that to the Kurds. But with Erdogan shelling the Kurds, how long is it before they shell, U.S. troops? That's not going to sit over. I mean, Turkey, for some reason, seems to be getting away with doing all kinds of crazy things. Shelling Iraq, shelling, Syria, Armenia. What, are they going to shell Greece next? You know what I mean? Like they're all over the friggin' place. So, the thing is that with all the crazy stuff that Erdogan's doing or whatever, obviously he would be able to get away with it without the blessing of the United States. Yes, in the open channels they're going to condemn him. But I mean, if they want to condemn him to say, keep this up, we'll kick you out of NATO, and then he'll mellow out. I mean, that's all they have to do. That type of thing. Or we'll put sanctions on you, whatever. But the fact that they're not doing that tells you that, yeah, okay, it is U.S. foreign policy. But let's get back to Israel. Now, Israel is going to have its funding increased from the United States, apparently, by quite a bit. And the thing that was going on about a week or 2 ago was Netanyahu was meeting with Putin. And I believe there was discussions, again, you'll have to look into it, about, oil revenue from the Golan Heights. So in other words, they're trying to bribe the Russians, say, well, here, we'll give you part of the revenue if you just let us have Assad. But I don't think the Russians are going to go for it. And then about 4 days ago from the making, or 5 days ago from making this video, apparently 2 incidents happened with Israeli jets. Question again, why are there Israeli jets in Syria in the first place? They're not at war. They have no reason to be in there whatsoever. But we know, and this comes from, again, 2 Israeli commanders, or a general and a commander, that, they got arrested and went to jail for treason in Israel there for spilling the beans that, we trained ISIS, we created them. And there's more and more seem to be coming out. Again, there's good guys and bad guys everywhere, but, the governments are all bad. It doesn't matter what government we're talking about in the world right now. They've alienated the people. And right now, with what's going on, if you've been watching the financial system, yes, they're really getting desperate to start a war so bad. Because again, the bankers, they know that they're on the hook for this one. The pitchfork revolution. There is no rule of law when the banking system collapses. That's going out the window. And because of that, there's going to be people who know who did what to who. And, bad things are going to happen to these people. That's why they're leaving in the droves. The world elites are going to their fallout bunkers. But just that they're going to their fallout bunkers, what do they know that we don't? Well, again, when they're pulling the strings, they know exactly what's going on. So they're trying to get this going. If Russia shot at a Israeli airplane, we'd be at war. We wouldn't even know what the incident was. We'd already be at war. Now, the U.S. is also moving into Turkey missile systems not missile systems. They've already have the missiles, like the Patriot missile system and stuff like that. But they are bringing in more anti-aircraft stuff, surface-to-airs and stuff like that. But they're also bringing in, it's a truck called M143. It's an MLRS type of vehicle, and it can fire rockets apparently 200 kilometers. That's pretty impressive. That's very impressive. And it can be outfitted a few different ways. I don't know much about this vehicle. I don't know if it's new or if it's... But anyway, yeah, so they're putting that on the border of Syria so that they're saying so that they could better hit ISIS. No, so they can better hit Assad's troops. Syria isn't that big of a country. I mean, I'm thinking what they're thinking is if we could fire rockets at key positions from inside Turkey, they know Assad won't attack Turkey because they're looking for that excuse. That's what all the provocation is about. But it could be a way for them to challenge the S-300 missile system, but I don't think it will work. The thing is that if you're firing 200 kilometers into Syria, with what intelligence? You know what I mean? The other thing that the U.S. is doing is the coalition forces are rooftop bombardments. How this works is they drop a bomb to basically shake the people up and get them running so they get out of the area so they can destroy the infrastructure without killing civilians. However, they don't seem to... they take out the rooftops and everything with it. So they're killing a lot of civilians. And again, we know Erdogan was having Syrian refugees machine gunned on the border. But again, mainstream media is silent on that. There was also, I don't know if it was a Danish airplane or airplane from the Netherlands. I'm not too sure which, but in that region anyway, they struck one of their own guys on the ground in a command tower or something like that, accidentally in Iraq, I think. So, Iraq or Syria, whatever. So the potential for danger there, I don't know much about that. It's just something I came across. It gives you an idea of how a miscalculation can happen. Next to that, Russia's apparently putting 5,000 troops in response to the U.S. bringing hordes of troops to their borders. So they're just countering on the other side, and that type of thing. So with that going on, you can see the escalation now. Putin again a week ago. Warren said, yes, don't push it. We will do a full response. We don't want a war, but if you're going to push a war. And again, we can see who's provoking. I mean, there is no excuse for the U.S. foreign policy to be there. They have no... Syria was no threat to Israel. So they can't make that claim at all. It was no threat to the United States. There was no... Just because you don't like them doesn't mean you get a chance, get the reason to go and overthrow governments here and there. People are getting sick of that. The only candidate in the United States right now not talking about going to war is Donald Trump. Now, I didn't see his whole speech, but it goes something like this. Apparently what they're going to do under Donald Trump is basically put U.S. First. Okay? So that could go awry very quickly. U.S. interest first, America first type thing, which sounds good, but it could also go awry very quickly. But then he says, what we're going to want to do, and this sounds like the right way. Now, how we do it, I don't know. And again, with Donald Trump, I mean, as soon as if he was able, he's not going to win. Hillary Clinton is having it's her turn, so she's going to get the election. But if by some chance there was actual real elections and Donald Trump did win, he would be also, basically becoming. He's going to renegotiate with NATO, which is a good idea, and in Asia to get others to pull their own weight, which they can't. Like other countries cannot. Not every country in the world is meant to be a military superpower. Depending, and it also depends on, I mean, if you're building stuff domestically, yeah, anybody could be a superpower if they're building stuff domestically. But if you're buying $80 million, $50 million jets from another country, you can only buy so many of those. You know what I mean? Like, you really can't buy very many of those. But you could build $15,000 jets. Yeah, you can build them probably 50,000, 400,000. They might not be much of a jet, but you can build them in large numbers. it all depends on a few things, right? Even if you say $4 million a jet, you could probably build a $4 million jet that would be pretty substantial. It's like you don't have to reinvent the wheel on these things. I mean, there's enough technology out there that works well enough. You know, I mean, how hard would it be to build a revised version of an F5 or an F20 Tiger Shark? Not that much. And okay, you make it a little bit lighter. I mean, it's already a light airplane. Make it a little bit lighter, a little bit better range, better, more powerful, more efficient, smoother engine, more reliability on the radar, etc., etc. It already had these things. It was already comparable and very maneuverable. Maybe a little more wing area to carry a little more stuff, a little more fuel capacity, whatever. Better range. You could do all that stuff and probably build them for less than $4 million a jet. You know, it's the overinflation that you know, they overinflate the stuff. You know, the insourcing, the outsourcing, and all that stuff. Plus, that's dangerous to your country too. Outsourcing particularly, and insourcing. You don't want to bring in people working on your war machinery. Why we do this, I don't know. That we've already caught Chinese spies in our shipbuilding program. And, you know, temporary foreign workers. Why would we even use them? You know, it's like these are, you know, you want to keep military secrets. You use patriotic Canadians. That's it. Of course, they're going to send over their temporary foreign workers to, you know, send their spies into the system, right? There you go. But yeah, there's that, and then of course there's a lot of troop movement going here, going there. It's kind of hard to follow it all, but yeah, there's 250 U.S. troops going into Syria, and these are boots on the ground. Like there's no way to you know, I mean, these are full combat soldiers. They're not, you know, just advisors and all that stuff. That they're, you know, and of course the State Department. You know, well, we never said there would be no boots on the ground, but didn't Obama, like, you know, I'm going to end up, like, considering the contradictions Obama has made 180s on almost every stance he's ever made, right? I mean, I feel bad for the person that has to get out there and try to find a way to spin it. You know, no, what we said was, you know, like, okay, so they put sandals on these guys so there's no boots on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing, right? But yeah, this incident, or incidents, the details are kind of vague. Apparently, what Israel was supposed to have done was fly in to support their guys. No, Goof, you can't go out. She got a bad leg, so she has to rest. So yeah, so this, you know, like, if it was real, I think the Israelis would have footage, they would have cockpit recordings, they would have this, they would have that, and I don't think the Russians would have missed. Now, would the Russians fire warning shots at the Israelis? Yeah, an Egyptian airplane or possibly Saudi airplane, they'd probably shoot those down. Nobody cared if those got shot down. But when it comes to Israel, you have to understand the whole wars in the Middle East are because of Israel in the long term. A lot of people don't understand the Greater Israel Project. Why do you think Netanyahu's trying to negotiate with Putin? Putin is saying, yes, we'd like to improve relations with Israel, but you know, we're doing it our way. So, you know, the Russians aren't leaving Syria anytime soon. They're going to be there for the long haul. They're just keeping it at a marginal cost. Now, here's the thing. The Russians have already pledged, again, you have to understand, the rebuild of Syria is going to basically be China, Russia, Iran, and other countries. Everybody but U.S. central banking is going to be in there rebuilding Syria. So how much is it going to cost to rebuild Syria? $950 million. Which, if you think about it, $950 million, that's not even $1 billion. You know what I mean? $950 million. It's almost $1 billion. But, like, that's cheap to rebuild a country, you know? Like, mind you, if you look at a lot of the buildings that are bombed out, like, you know, these are mortar buildings that are, you know, not like here where it's all concrete and steel to the, you know, like, the cost of a building there must be astronomically cheaper than in a Western equivalent, right? So, you know, wood and mortar, you know, that's the buildings here, wood and mortar, so cheap to build. But they might build better stuff. So with that going on, again, we know Iran, again, parading around their new S-300 missile systems in Tehran there about 2 weeks ago. That keeps things interesting for sure. So that kind of gives Israel, you know, for the Greater Israel Project, it's a big dampening in the plan. You have to understand there's a whole bunch of oil under the Golan Heights. And that's really, some people are saying, I don't think there's one thing that they're after. Like, they are after a bunch of different things. And one of the things is to get that oil. And the thing is it can be drilled from either the Israeli side or the Syrian side. Now, the thing is they don't want the Syrians getting this oil. Why? Because, again, they're going to be they don't want anybody in the region to prosper because, that's how they figure a threat. This is why Iran is such a threat to Israel, is because it's doing better than any of the other regions. It has its own weapons programs. Yeah, the weapons might be so-so, but they're good enough to get the job done. They've got all these underground rocket tunnels with, probably, God knows how many thousands of ballistic missiles they have now. So they don't even need nukes. Iran doesn't need nukes to wipe Israel off the map. They can just fire ballistic rockets at them. No, the Iron Dome, and the Patriot missile system, and I know Israel's getting a new air defense system coming in, but it's not good enough. It won't stop Russian stuff. The Russian warheads bob and weave and do all kinds of, they come up to center ice with bobbing and deking and weaving, right? So, yeah, they're not going to, the American stuff can't shoot the Russian stuff down reliably. It might hit some, but it's a numbers game, just, fire 12,000 rockets at once. How many do you stop, right? Even if you had a 100% success rate, they get you on the reload. So, yeah, you have a battery of 16 Iron Dome rockets going up to intercept. Rocket number 17 gets through. You know what I mean? You're just not going to... It'll just overwhelm the system. And I know how the Iron Dome works. It tracks the things that are potential threats. So if, say, it's a piece of artillery or a Hezbollah rocket, and it's going to fall outside the zone of lethality, it won't fire the missile. If it works as good as advertised. A lot of people say, no, Iron Dome is a complete sideshow. It doesn't work at all. What they do is they fire up and just explode the rocket, say they shot something down. At 20,000 feet, you're not going to be able to tell. Even at 5,000 feet, you can't see it. A 16-foot projectile, that wide, at 5,000 feet, is going to be very difficult to say, oh yeah, no, I've seen it hit something. What they might be doing is firing up a contrail and just blowing it. Fire up this one, do 2 explosions at the same time. That type of thing. So you just don't see it. So that's what some people are saying. This comes from an Israeli whistleblower a few weeks ago. Iron Dome is just it's a sideshow. It's nothing. That's if that's true. But we don't know. Again, propaganda being what it is, they could be just saying that to debunk the Israelis. But I think the Greater Israel Project is going to fail miserably. And with the amount of enemies that, again, people, that take Israel's side, and I understand why you take the side, but you have to look at exactly what they're doing. Israel will provoke something, and then what happens is they sit back for a while and wait till people retaliate, and then they say, oh, look at us. What's the saying? Zionists scream out in pain as they strike you, right? So, yeah. And again, there's a lot of Jews they're against this too, so you got to factor that in there. So again, I'm not anti-Semitic or whatever. Some people, as soon as you say anything against Israel, they go into that mode. But they're you're a shitbag if you do that. Like, yeah, nice try. No, this is what you just stabilize not one country, but several countries around you, armed jihadists, calling them moderate rebels, and then and none of these moderate rebels or ISIS guys have been attacking Israel at all. Don't you find that odd? What is the number one crusade of a jihadist? Wipe Israel off the map, isn't it? So, a 5-year, almost 6-year war going on in Syria, and ISIS hasn't attacked Israel once. Not once. They've attacked Europe, they've attacked North America, they've attacked here, they've attacked there, they've attacked South America, they've attacked, all over the place. But for some reason, the most hated country by a jihadist never gets attacked. I find that, man, they're lucky. Man, to have that kind of luck, So, it kind of tells you what the program is, right? And I will be doing a video on the Greater Israel Project. That's why, I'm bashing the Israeli government, not the people. Yeah, okay, if they're Zionists, I won't agree with you and I don't like you if you're a Zionist. That's it's at odds with my ideology. I don't like Zionists any more than I like jihadists. You're the same, you're cut from the same cloth. All you are is nihilistic death machine cult type people. Have no, they hate human, humanity. No, of course I don't like them. And you can call me anti-Semitic, racist, bigot, whatever. Okay, fine. But you're still, I'd rather be a racist, bigot, and anti-Semite than be anti-human and a genocidal maniac. I think it's a better balance. You can live with me. The other guys, they'll kill you. So, yeah. So, so nice try on the argument, but no, it's not going to fly. No, Israel, you make your bed, you lie in it. I mean, and now, with what's going on in Libya, again, they're trying to, the U.S. trying to get back into Libya. Again, U.S. foreign policy is Israeli policy. That's why it's so bad. That's why it's so messed up. That's why I think more and more people are waking up and they understand where ISIS really came from. Look, ISIS just got a new battery of anti-aircraft missiles and stuff like that. They're getting all these anti-tank weapons, U.S. made. Some of them are German-made, stuff like that, sure. They're getting all this equipment, and it's just, okay, Saudi Arabia is giving it to them, but the Saudis wouldn't have it if they didn't get it from the U.S. And they wouldn't be able to give it to the ISIS guys without the U.S.'s approval. Now, the 28 pages, I'm going to get onto that. Again, everybody thinks it's about Saudi Arabia. It's not. It's about Israel. Because Israel, there was the Israeli art students in 9/11. There's so many connections to Israel. And Steve Berchenik, who is Jewish himself, well, I think he's half Jew or whatever he is, out there saying, no, there is Israeli intelligence officers that are blowing the whistle on 9/11. And they should, because their country is going to get thrown under the bus, like anything. And what is Saudi Arabia? Everybody thinks it's just about Saudi Arabia. Because what's Saudi Arabia's response to the 9/11 Commission? 28 pages. Well, if you release that, we're going to crash your economy. So, at this point, if that's Saudi Arabia's stance, should you be doing any business? And I know it's hypocritical coming from a Canadian after we're doing a $10.5 billion armored vehicle deal with them, which we shouldn't be doing any trade or anything with Saudi Arabia. If there's a country that needs sanctions for human rights, it's that one. The country needs to go back to the people. The Saudi royal family, they're douchebags. They're bad people. And again, they kind of openly admit, all the, Daesh and all that, or ISIS, whichever you want to call them. Now they're calling them the Arab Democracy League or something stupid like that anyway. And it's like, okay, it's the same guys. All these new groups don't keep showing up. They just keep renaming them. I think people are catching on. So, so Saudi Arabia, and this is the irony. And even Rob Paul is kind of like, what the fuck, Saudi Arabia, 19 of the hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. Yes, they came through Montreal or whatever, came to Canada, went through there, and then went through there, right? And then they went and trained in Florida and whatever and what have you. And those guys, some people, those guys didn't exist. They did exist. They didn't. But we do know the Israeli students, art students, the ones that that were in the Trade Center. These guys connected to the Mossad. Yeah, people know who pulled it off. It's Israel, the United States government, plus Saudi Arabia, and maybe a few others in there. And that 28 pages, that's what it's going to tell us. And even Rand Paul said, we can't release the 28 pages because it's about relationships. And, okay, well, relationships. You're talking about two countries, Saudi Arabia and Israel. So Israel has attacked, the United States, not once, but several times. I think the attack on the U.S. coal was an Israeli plot as well. I think it was the U.S. coal. Whichever, anyway, the Israelis have done this a few times. They'll do it again. And we're paying them to do it. That's the worst part. We shouldn't be giving any money. Again, another country worthy of sanctions is Israel. We shouldn't be paying them death money. We shouldn't be giving them anything. No, just no. It's us or them. And I know there's the people that are very religious and stuff like that. They can't separate the Israeli government from biblical Israel. There's two differences there. Look, even if you argue, but they're the chosen people. The Ten Commandments includes the chosen people too. They have to follow it. They're not following the Ten Commandments. So even if you argue from a biblical point of view, no, you got to follow those commandments, whether you're chosen people or not. So that's not an argument. At that point, you're just a neocon who wants to go to war and follow Zionism. And then, that's not good. That's not good. So, the Israelis have to follow the Ten Commandments the same way everybody else does. And that said, if they don't, again, and you're supporting them, then you're supporting a false thing. So I get that some people can't grasp that concept, but that is what it is. But on the other hand, the people that do understand that, no, we need to throw Israel under the bus, we need to throw Saudi Arabia under the bus, and we definitely need to throw Turkey under the bus. And if we do that, if we defund those people, stop doing business with them, whatever, there's going to be catastrophic effects in a lot of areas. But we should not be arming the Israelis. We should not be arming and the Israelis turn around and sell our technology, the U.S. technologies to the Chinese anyway. Are they really allies? No. They're a horrible, horrible government, And they're not even good with their own people. Some of them, yes, but a lot of them, no, they're not good with their people. So with that said, I get it, people like to defend Israel, but you have to understand what the Greater Israel Project is, and once you understand that, you understand how this plays out. It's not a coincidence that ISIS hasn't run out of ammo in 6 years. It's not a coincidence at all. Again, these guys, dumber than six, poorer than dirt, living in caves somewhere, they never run out, and yet they're increasing in military thing. Oh no, but that's the rebel forces, because, Assad uses chemical weapons against his own people. But there's a problem every time. Even the UN, which is heavily stacked in the favor of the U.S. central bankers and the Israeli lobby, have even said no, it's not Assad using the chemical weapons. That's CNN saying that, and Fox News saying that. They say that. They never show you proof. But when proof comes out months later that it wasn't them, they never redact it. They never, retract it and say, no, it was actually the ISIS guys all along. And yeah, time and time again, it's lie after lie. So I think people are just catching up to it that, yes, Israel is trying to get us into it. They start, it's like your kid brother going up and punching a big bully in the face and then running behind you and trying to get you to fight them. No, at some point you have to let them fight their own battles. And that's the thing. If they want to fight their own battles, fine. But if they're going to, you pick your own battles. You can defend yourself, fine. Most people are not against Israel defending themselves. But there's a difference when you provoke the stuff in the first place. I mean, the main people that you're fighting exist because, they're, like chicken and the egg, and this is why we shouldn't be in the Middle East in the first place. To take sides in the Middle East is kind of stupid. It's like, okay, well, because 2,000 years ago these people were fighting back then, they're still fighting now. They've been fighting so long they don't even know what they're fighting over. And we got to choose a side? No, that's stupid. No, let them work it out themselves. If you back away from Israel and throw them under the bus, they'll eventually play nice with others. They'll have no choice, which means less war, more stability, and a good possibility that, they'll stick to their side of the fence. They'll stick to their side of the fence. I don't think Israel's going to go anywhere anytime soon, but if it's going to be destroyed, it's going to be destroyed from within. I think just the people are going to rip it apart from within. But, again, you make your own hell, right? So, yeah, but, excuse. I've heard all the Israeli excuses, and then I watch what they do. And when I watch what they do, again, they lash out in pain as they strike you. So, okay, well, yeah, but Hezbollah fired rockets at us. Yes, but you wiped out an entire city block the week before with an Apache helicopter. Yes, there's going to be some retaliation against that. Well, we did it because some Palestinians were throwing stones at our tanks. You know what I mean? So I get it. It's back and forth, and it's back and forth, and back and forth. You killed one Israeli soldier, you wipe out, 1,000 Palestinians. I get it, how it works. That said, that's up to them to work out, not up to us. So you can take sides in it, but when it gets to the point where we have to go fight and die for them, no. And you have to understand, they're willing to kill U.S. soldiers and Allied soldiers at a rate of like 33 or 35 to 1. So they're willing to sacrifice that many of us for them. That's a part of the Samson option. And if you don't understand the Samson option or the Greater Israel Project, then, you really need to look into those two things. And if you're still pro-Israel after that, I don't know. I don't know. Because you would be maybe if you're Israeli, but if you're not an Israeli, it's really not in your best interest to put us on the line like that. But anyway, yeah, so that's the propaganda flying around. I know there's a few other things I wanted to touch on. Again, the rebuild of Syria, troops moving everywhere, getting into play, missile systems everywhere. Over in North Korea, there's still, Kim Jong-un's still doing his thing. Provoking and reacting and whatever. Again, Donald Trump, if he were to get in, and one of the things he did say, and even if he's bullshitting, it's nice to finally hear somebody say it, that yes, they would, negotiate with NATO, work with allies that they have, as normal, invest in the military, take care of the veterans, and that's the big thing. That should be the first thing you cost out is, what's it going to cost us to take care of the veterans? Can you imagine the amount of veterans we're going to have on the streets after World War III? I mean, well, whatever streets are left, it's going to be astronomical. And he was also talking about, things like the F-35, like wasting programs like that, getting rid of stuff like that, becoming more efficient. And I think he would. And the other thing he talked about was the people that we don't work with, such as Russia, China, Iran, negotiating with them, talking, finding a way to play in the world peaceful. We don't need to have Russia as an enemy all the time. But if 53% of your GDP is spent on the military-industrial complex, yeah, you're always going to have an enemy. That's why the states always have to have somebody to go to war with. But somebody to go to war with means innocent people die because of bankers. At the end of it, it's always banker war. All wars are bankers' wars. But the war, because they fund it. But the U.S. foreign policy is Israeli policy, and that's why they destabilize so much. So, yes, I bash Israel, but I bash it because, well, I think they're deserving of it. But I bash anybody that's deserving of it. I mean, there's not too many governments I speak highly of. Even the Russian government, I don't speak highly of that. Like, I don't trust Putin as far as you can throw him. But I also see where the warships are. I'll finish up on the U.S. Donald Cook. And there's another warship headed towards... I forget. Anyway, I forgot that a little bit. But yeah, the Donald Cook. So the Russian response, again, they flew those Su-24s. They buzzed the U.S. Donald Cook 30 times. They did jam the signals, but this time the U.S. Donald Cook didn't have to get towed away from what I understand. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. The U.S. has been saying, well, it's dangerous. That could lead to an incident, whatever. If the U.S. fires first, okay, and starts the war, they're going to lose the moral high ground with its people. But, I mean, you went over into that area, provoked Russia, got them to respond. Again, anybody sitting there saying, well, they were buzzing our destroyer terribly close to the warship. Yeah, but that warship was terribly close to their border. You know what I mean? That type of thing. You're telling me if there was a Russian warship sitting a few miles off the coast of Florida, there would be no F-18s buzzing that thing and F-15s? It'd be all F-16. They'd buzz it 110 times, And I guess I'll finish up on the last. This one's a little bit more on the bizarre side. But the propaganda now against the Russian attack dolphins. I don't know if the militaries have been playing around with using dolphins for basically to go plant mines and blow up ships and stuff. And the dolphins are smart enough to do this. However, the problem with the dolphins is that dolphins being so intelligent, when they figure out what they do, they commit suicide. They can't handle the fact that they killed something. That type of thing. So some of the dolphins, anyway, so it's psychological trauma to the dolphins. So they shouldn't be using dolphins, but they're using them for mine sweeping. They're using them also for planting mines, and they're using now how good this program works, I don't know, but there is some success in it. And they're talking about the 5 dolphins that the KGB, so to speak, has dolphin program, or it's now the FSB, but their Navy. They've got 5 dolphins in Russia, but they have 85 in the U.S. doing the same thing. Not in U.S., but in U.S. military doing the same thing. But yet they call Russia out. I always find it funny with that kind of hypocrisy. So this is the level warfare has gotten to where they're manipulating everything that they can to. And a dolphin would, if you could train it to sink ships, it would be a very, very effective weapon to a degree. But then everybody just poisons the oceans and kills all the fish and the dolphins. Right, so there's always a counter to everything. So that should be exempt from war, using dolphins and stuff like that. But it's getting to the point where if the good guys don't step up soon, they are going to start something and get a war going, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen like a snap. It's going to happen fast. But the goal is to get Russia or China to shoot first. The United States cannot go to war unless Russia or China does it. But the idea that Obama's talking about more funding, NATO's talking about collapsing if they don't get enough funding and stuff like this. It just, people see it for what it is. It really isn't, again, yeah, Russia, they do their thing. They buzz your border with bombers from time to time just to let you know they're there. And they provoke too. I mean, but 99.9% of the provoking is from the NATO. And the people in the Eastern Europe and stuff like that, they have to understand that they're slated to take the brunt of the war, not Western Europe. And because of that, if you're in Eastern Europe and you're a NATO country, you're slated for destruction. You are going to be killed in a war with Russia. Why? Because the idea is to get a war in the East. Like that's what the whole Ukraine was about. And now Victoria Nuland, where she's popping up somewhere else again. I kind of forgot where. Again, to follow all this stuff in one night. But yeah, she's out there provoking again in another country. Don't know if it's Armenia or I forget. Anyway, she's up there. More. There's going to be another country destabilized pretty soon. If she's there, I mean, it's the same plan. But the thing is the goal was to get Russia to roll tanks into the Ukraine, to get it to threaten Poland, and then, because remember, Ukraine is still not a part of NATO, which begs the question, why are we there? But the thing is that if they could get a Russian response in Eastern Europe, then Russia and Eastern Europe can go to war, they can wear down the Russian troops, and then the goal is that NATO can come in and just sweep up. Problem is the Russians are too smart to fall for it. So that's why they didn't roll tanks into the Ukraine. And, I mean, by this time, if you don't know who destabilized the Ukraine, I mean, you're trying very hard not to find out. It's so almost completely openly admitted that, yes, it was a U.S., George Soros-funded U.S. military coup. And George Soros, I mean, the amount of death and destruction that man is responsible for, Henry Kissinger, Brzezinski, all these guys are so bad. And yeah, like, I mean, they're just going to get millions and millions of people killed. For what? The Greater Israel Project. You know, you might not believe it, but yeah, there was Mossad agents training up protesters on the Maidan as well. I mean, so again, and then you look at all the Zionists that run Ukraine now, it's pretty much a U.S. coup in the government there. I mean, they pretty much stole all the resources from Ukraine. So did the Ukrainians benefit from the overthrow of Yanukovych? No. New boss is worse than the old boss. Why? Because they got him in a civil war. So, yeah. I mean, at some point, the people there are going to wake up. But again, I understand, like, the Ukrainians don't get the access to information like we do. And at some point, yeah, these kind of videos won't be allowed to be made. They'll be illegal. I get that. And probably not as far off in the future as we think. But I do know this, that the Russians, they do tend to play their hand quite brilliantly. And at this point, they've outplayed the Obama administration at every, and you might as well say the Israeli administration at every turn. And yeah, you know, again, if this incident with the Israeli jets was true, that'll be the third or fourth time that the Russians have scared Israel out of Syria. And we know jam fest, you know, they jam each other, whatever. The Israelis can't counter jam the Russian stuff. If they could, they would have done their strikes already in Iran. They would have done. They can't get in there. You know, a lot of people put the Israeli military, and again, they are one of the best militaries in the world. They put a lot of effort in training. They got extra. You know, it takes 5 years for them to bring a pilot up to scratch, etc. Tank crew, whatever. They really heavily invest in that, and they are very good at what they do. But they have their limitations too. And this is what I was talking about World War III in general. And I'll hear it from Russian guys, I'll hear it from American guys, I'll hear it from Israeli guys, I'll hear it from my military is the best. Oh, Russia won't stand a chance against NATO. Yeah, World War I was only supposed to last 2 weeks. World War II was only supposed to last tops 2 months to 6 months, right? Yeah. Don't count your chickens like that. People underestimate the enemy always so much, by so much. And the thing is I'm not saying, I don't know who would win World War III. I don't think anybody wins. If you really think of the human cost, nobody wins. But like, okay, well, we can stake a flag and claim victory. I think it goes to a stalemate, and then eventually it goes to, okay, well, let's just both surrender. There'll be nobody left on the planet. Or by that time, all the world elites have been killed off, hopefully, in the war. Because I don't think they get to survive this one. It's not like World War II where you can have the manufacturing in North America and keep the war going. If, for example, let's say there was no North America, or North America was attached to Europe, well, the Germans probably wouldn't have lost the war because they probably would have been able to get other, factories and stuff going. The thing that kept us going was the manufacturing. The manpower was nothing. We had lots of people, lots of cannon fodder. We got 8 billion people on the planet for World War III. There's tons of cannon fodder. They'll draft anybody from the ages of 16 to 63, that type of thing. And that's what they did in Germany. That's what they do in a lot of countries. That's what they do in the Asian countries. That, conscription, is pretty much right up to the end, That's it. So every man, woman, and child is going to have to fight. But the real kicker here is that there's going to be no place to hide. No, Lockheed Martin's factories in Northrop, or if they're even still around, but Lockheed Martin and General Dynamics and all them, yeah, they're going to have Russian bombers flying over top. Oh. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. So yeah, nobody wins on that one. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation channel. Links down below. Thank you very much to everybody who has. Next to that, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. If you want to make a couple of bucks for yourself, there's my TSU link down below. And you can make a couple of bucks on that. Next to that, be true to yourself. Oh, yeah. Give me a second here. Like, be true to yourself, be true to others, always do the right thing, and make sure you don't have a happy dog. And have a great day. Hey, and welcome. World War III update. I put my big jawbreakers aside here. And I don't have a lot today, but it's going to take me about, they say 4 days. I can do this jawbreaker in 2, I know it. But anyway, I don't know how much truth there is to what I'm about to say. So take it with a grain of salt, because if it was really true, it'd be all over the news. But this does come from Israel. Closer. And apparently, according to I think it's the Jerusalem Post, don't quote me on it, one of the Israeli papers, they said that the Russians have fired twice at Israeli airplanes. Which, there's two reasons why I'm not sure if this is propaganda, why I think there's more propaganda than true. Number one, would the Russians miss? I don't think so. The Israelis are good, but they're not that good. Again, I know there's some people that they're complete absolutists. No, these guys are the best in the world. Maybe the best in the world, but not invincible. Israeli airplanes get shot down by much lesser nations than Russia, equipment-wise, from time to time. So, if the Russians were shooting at the Israelis, we'd have two charbroiled Israeli airplanes on the ground. There's no doubt about that. Now, did they fire warning shots? That could be something different. And did they, again, if Russia was shooting at Israeli airplanes or any airplanes, they're going down. I'm not saying the Israelis can't fight back, but what I'm saying is, with an S-300 missile system there, with Su-30s flying around the skies, there's been a couple of incidents where the Russians have chased Israeli airplanes out of Syrian airspace. And there's a lot going on right now. Apparently the world's on red alert. I don't know about on the DEFCON system, but it looks like this. So the Israelis are saying it in their newspaper for propaganda. At a time when Israel is trying to get more funding from the United States, at a time when Obama was trying to get funding for a potential war with Russia. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody is going to be telling the truth on this. At a time when 250 troops, U.S. troops, are now in Syria to fight, they're there to fight Assad's forces. There's no doubt about that. They're there to fight Assad's forces. Directly or indirectly, they're there. I'm pretty sure the U.S. servicemen will figure it out when they're there. But they're supposed to be supporting role and stuff like that to the Kurds. But with Erdogan shelling the Kurds, how long is it before they shell, U.S. troops? That's not going to sit over. I mean, Turkey, for some reason, seems to be getting away with doing all kinds of crazy things. Shelling Iraq, shelling, Syria, Armenia. What, are they going to shell Greece next? You know what I mean? They're all over the friggin' place. So, the thing is that with all the crazy stuff that Erdogan's doing or whatever, obviously he would be able to get away with it without the blessing of the United States. Yes, in the open channels they're going to condemn him. But I mean, if they want to condemn him to say, keep this up, we'll kick you out of NATO, and then he'll mellow out. I mean, that's all they have to do. That type of thing. Or we'll put sanctions on you, whatever. But the fact that they're not doing that tells you that, yeah, okay, it is U.S. foreign policy. But let's get back to Israel, though. Now, Israel is going to have its funding increased from the United States, apparently, by quite a bit. And the thing that was going on about a week or two ago was Netanyahu was meeting with Putin. And I believe there was discussions, again, you'll have to look into it, about, oil revenue from the Golan Heights. So in other words, they're trying to bribe the Russians, say, well, here, we'll give you part of the revenue if you just let us have Assad. But I don't think the Russians are going to go for it. And then about 4 days ago from the making, or 5 days ago from the making of this video, apparently 2 incidents happened with Israeli jets. Question again, why are there Israeli jets in Syria in the first place? They're not at war. They have no reason to be in there whatsoever. But we know, and this comes from, again, two Israeli commanders, or a general and a commander, that, they got arrested and went to jail for treason in Israel there for spilling the beans that, we trained ISIS, we created them. And there's more and more seem to be coming out. Again, there's good guys and bad guys everywhere, but, the governments are all bad. It doesn't matter what government we're talking about in the world right now. They've alienated the people. And right now, with what's going on, if you've been watching the financial system, yes, they're really getting desperate to start a war so bad. Because again, the bankers, they know that they're on the hook for this one. The pitchfork revolution. There is no rule of law when the banking system collapses. That's going out the window. And because of that, there's going to be people who know who did what to who, and bad things are going to happen to these people. That's why they're leaving in the droves. The world elites are going to their fallout bunkers. But just that they're going to their fallout bunkers, what do they know that we don't? Well, again, when they're pulling the strings, they know exactly what's going on. So they're trying to get this going. If Russia shot at a Israeli airplane, we'd be at war. We wouldn't even know what the incident was. We'd already be at war. Now, The U.S. is also moving into Turkey missile systems not missile systems. They've already have the missile system, like the Patriot missile system and stuff like that. But they are bringing in more anti-aircraft stuff, surface-to-airs and stuff like that. But they're also bringing in, it's a truck called M143. It's an